Hello. It's Friday afternoon. The school is quiet because it's beautiful outside, so lots of people have gone home to start the weekend. But I thought I would start our weekend with chapter 10, Foxpaw. Outside, in the gloomy tunnel, Podkin stood and stared at the other little rabbit. She stared back for a moment, then shrugged her shoulders and hurried off down the tunnel towards the market. "Hey, wake up!" Podkin scampered after as best he could, struggling not to drop Pook in the process. He caught up with the rabbit by a flickering candle, which was balanced on the crumbling tip of some creature's leg bone, jutting out of a tunnel wall. The light threw wavering patterns over the dangling roots and piles of rubbish on the floor, making it seem like they were at the bottom of a particularly filthy lake. The small rabbit gave him another impatient look, as if Podkin was keeping her from something important. "Yes?" Podkin stood huffing and puffing, thinking of something to say. Hello, my name's Podkin and this is Pook. I was just wondering." "Look," said the rabbit, "I don't mean to be rude, but we really should get to the market as quickly as we can. If we don't come back at dusk with plenty of food and some coins, well, let's just say it won't be very pleasant." "Do you do this every day?" Podkin asked. "Stealing and begging from the market? Haven't you tried to escape?" "Escape?" The little rabbit looked at Podkin as if he was crazy. "They've got my brother. How could I escape without him?" "But your parents," said Pod. "Can't you find them? Can't you tell the guards or the chieftain or someone?" "My parents are 50 years old and living in a warren on the other side of Alskit Mountains." When Podkin looked at her as if she was talking Tariatan, she sighed and shook her head. "I am not a child, Podkin, or whatever your name is. My brother and I are dwarf rabbits. I might be as small as you, but I'm actually fully grown. Those stupid ferret-brained lumps back there think we're children too. That's why they grabbed us." "How long have you been here?" The dwarf rabbit shrugged. 6 months, I think, although it seems like longer. They had another rabbit caged up when we got there, but he got sick and died. They buried him further up the tunnel. Podkin gulped. He really didn't want to end up shoveled into a shallow grave in this dingy, miserable place. "So you see, it's best to try and keep them happy. That way they don't hit you. Try and find as much food as you can, but don't get caught stealing anything. There aren't any guards in this place, and definitely no chieftain, but the storeholders do horrible things to thieves." The dwarf rabbit patted Podkin on the shoulder and then turned and headed up the tunnel. Podkin watched her go, calling out before she disappeared from sight. "It's Podkin, not Popkin." "Sorry," the rabbit called back. "I'm Mishka, but you can call me Mish. My brother is Mashka." And then she was gone. Mish and Mash, Podkin thought. Well, at least they weren't in a mess, completely on their own. "Mish," said Pook. Some time later, Podkin and Pook stepped out of the side tunnel and into the market hall once more. Again, he was hit by the wall of stink and noise, although this time his nose was a little more used to it. He could actually pick out some smells: spices, frying vegetables, roasted coffee, tanned leather, burning incense. Each one fought with the other, trying not to be overpowered and making his head spin. He stared out at the heaving mass of rabbits, all bustling about their business. From somewhere out there, he had to find enough food and coins to keep Shape and Quince happy and avoid getting caught and strung up by the ears, or ear in his case. He felt sick with fear. To top it all, his arms were already weak and burning from carrying and dragging Pook down the tunnel. He had never stolen anything in his life. His mother always used to say that the goddess thought very poorly of thieves and robbers. Would she understand if a little rabbit was doing this to save his sister's life? His eyes drifted across the seething marketplace to the entrance tunnel, which was little more than a dark hole across the crowded cavern. Did Paz really want them to leave without her? Could he even do such a thing? She was his big sister. Annoying, yes. Bossy, definitely. But she was near enough the only family he had left, and he did love her very much, even though he would never admit it. Besides, she was the one with all the ideas, the quick thinker, always coming up with a plan in an instant. He was just the lazy, spoiled chieftain's son, daydreaming and snoozing around until he became head of the tribe and could daydream and snooze even more. He wouldn't last 10 minutes looking after Pook by himself. Paz would never leave me behind, he thought, so I'm not going to leave her. He took a deep breath and began to look around for something to steal. So, where should he start? Cutting some rabbit's purse, that was obviously what Shape expected him to do. Leaving him Starclaw. He had no idea how to go about it, and what if he got caught? The stall holders do horrible things to thieves, Mish had said. He wondered what that could be. Throwing them into a dungeon, sticking red-hot pokers into their squidgy bits, chopping off their hands. He'd already lost an ear, so he really could start by being more carefully about holding on to his other body parts. How about grabbing something from a stall? There were hot pies over there, and next to it a rabbit selling clay jugs of mead. Was he fast enough to snatch something and run for it, not with having to carry Pook as well? Maybe he should have left him crying in the cage. Perhaps if Shape had got sick enough of the noise, he might have let them all go. Soup, Pook said. Soup, soup. You're not having any soup, Podkin told him. But there was a soup seller nearby, and the delicious smell was everywhere. Soup, Pook screamed. Podkin started to pull his little brother away from the tempting odours round behind a stone pillar where the air was more dank and musty. But it didn't have any effect on Pook's howling, which was getting louder if anything. What did his mother do when this happened? Smack his bottom? Shove a rotten turnip into his mouth? No. She used to distract him with something, take his mind off his stomach for a moment until he forgot he was screaming about. Look, Pook, over there, a really fat rabbit selling carrots. Carrot, carrot. No, bad example. Look over there, a big lop rabbit. Look at his long ears, and on his stool he's got honey, honey. Podkin felt like crying. He sank to the floor amongst all the muck and rubbish in the market and let Pook's shout merge with the noise of the stalls into one big thunderous racket. There was no way he could find enough loot to keep Quince happy. There was no way he could escape Bone Root along with his brother and sister, and even if he did, the Gorm were looking for him everywhere. What was the point? He might as well just lay here in the dirt until he starved to death, and something hard was under his leg. Something round and hard. Something round and hard and coin-shaped. Holding his breath, he dug his paw into the grime and muck beneath him and fished it out. It looked like a lump of sticky old mud, but when he rubbed it against his cloak, the unmistakable glint of metal shone through. Ooh, Pook said. Shiny! Quickly, Podkin polished off the rest of the dirt. It was a large coin, marked with a rabbit's head, and made of an orangey-brown metal. Copper, he thought, or bronze. Having never worried about money before, he wasn't sure what it was worth. Not as much as gold or silver, definitely, but it might be enough to satisfy Quince and Shape. This is good, Pook, he said, but we need more, I think. Can you help me find some more? Shiny! Pook squealed and started rummaging around in the dirt and rotten food on the market floor. Surely there had to be more coins hidden in this litter, and scavenging for it was much safer than stealing. Podkin got his hands and knees and joined him. An hour later, they had covered half the market, scrabbling around in the dirt between the stalls. Podkin had been kicked in the ribs by 2 stallholders and chased off by several more, and they had nothing to show for it except an old apple core, which Pook was now sucking on. That and the original copper coin. So much for get-rich-quick idea. This is not good, Pook, he said. The little rabbit wasn't listening. Something had caught his attention on the other side of the market. Bone! Bone! Pook had dropped his soggy apple core and was pointing excitedly at a dingy corner. 3 or 4 scruffy-looking rabbits were crouched in a circle, taking turns to roll dice. Some kind of game, Podkin supposed. Bone! Pook started crawling over. The dice must have reminded him of the casting bones he played with at Bridget's place. He was drawn to them in the same way. Podkin didn't think the scruffy rabbits would take kindly to a strange baby ruining their game. He jumped up and ran after Pook, grabbing him just before he managed to snatch up the dice in his grubby little paw. Oi, nibbler! Keep your brat out of the game! A black and white rabbit with torn ears and brown teeth tried to slap at Pook as Podkin pulled him back. Yeah, said another scrawny black-brown buck. Unless he wants to join in. 3 of the rabbits roared with laughter, while the 4th looked miserable. He threw a handful of copper coins onto the floor and the others snatched them up. Podkin stared. A whole handful of coins. Are you playing for money? He asked. He remembered seeing guards back at the Warren doing something like this. His mother never allowed him to watch too closely. Fox paw, winner takes all, said the brown rabbit. Care to chance your luck? Foxpaw. The name rang a bell. Wasn't it from the story Bridget had told them? The dice game the goddess herself had played when she beat Gormaduke, or whatever he had been called. Surely that must be a sign. A foolish rabbit and his radishes are easily parted. That was Auntie Olwyn's always used to say. Or was it his mother? Someone's much more sensible than him, anyway. He meant that gambling was for ferret brains. They only managed to find 1 single coin all morning, and here he was of throwing it all away. But Pook had been so good at rolling the bones on Bridget's hearth. A natural gift, she said, and the little tinker was itching to do it again. What if it was a sign from the goddess? He looked at the piles of the coins lined up in front of the rabbits. It's a stupid thing to do, he thought, but there's nobody around to tell me otherwise. Just for once, he could be as stupid as he liked, and what if it worked? We're in, he said, holding out his copper coin. But my brother gets to roll for me. The scruffy rabbits hooted and roared at this, so much the others wandered over to see what was going on. Soon there was a little crowd around the table, with Pook in the middle trying to grab at the dice. Let's play then, said the brown rabbit. Do you know the rules? When Podkin shook his head, he laughed even harder. There's 3 dice, see? Bone ones with 6 sides apiece. They're marked with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a fox paw. Each time you roll, you add up the numbers. You can roll as many times as you like, but if you get 1 single fox paw, you're out. The one with the highest score at the end wins the money. Understand? Podkin nodded. Basically, he just didn't want to roll a fox paw. Simple. The black and white rabbit sneered at him. Seeing as it's your first game, you can start. Roll, Pook, Podkin said. The crowd behind him gave a little cheer. Pook grabbed the dice with glee and threw them down. A whoop went up from the crowd, and Podkin realised he'd been scrunching his eyes shut. He looked down to see 2 3s and a 1. Beginner's luck, said the brown rabbit. Roll again. Perhaps they should stop and keep the score, Podkin thought. He had no idea of what a good total was if they rolled again. They risked losing everything. But what was a game was a game of chance was all about, wasn't it? Go on, Pook, roll again. The little rabbit snatched the dice up and flung them. For one horrible moment, Podkin was sure there was a fox paw showing, but the crowd cheered again. A pair of 2s and a 3. 11, said the brown rabbit. He was starting to look less amused. Roll again, why don't you? It's easy to get higher than that. Stop there, someone from the crowd called out. Other voices joined in. They'll never beat that. 11's amazing. The goddess herself only rolled 9. Podkin began to pull back, but he grabbed the dice again. He threw them in the air, chortling with joy. Pook! Podkin yelled. He watched the dice spinning in slow motion, tumbling to the muddy floor and bouncing up and down again. Surely this time there would be a fox paw showing. Instead, there were 3 5s. Cheat! The black and white rabbit yelled. You must be cheating! The crowd behind Podkin booed and shouted at the black and white rabbit, and he quickly backed down. He folded his arms and shot evil looks at Podkin across the table. Have another go, little one, the brown rabbit cooed at Pook, trying to make him lose his score. One more roll, isn't it so much fun? Podkin tightened his grip on Pook, but the little rabbit didn't even move to touch the dice. Instead, he wrapped his arms around his podgy legs and stared at the scruffy rabbits, as if daring them to go next. The child's a born gambler, Podkin thought, amazed. Seeing Pook's turn was over, the other rabbits tried their luck. The brown rabbit rolled a fox paw first time, as did the black and white. The third scruffy rabbit managed a second roll before he threw 3 fox paws together. There were cheers and whoops from all the onlookers. Pay up, they called. Pay them their due. With sulky faces, the scruffy rabbits each handed over a copper coin. The money clinked heavily in Podkin's outstretched paws. By some miracle, he had turned 1 coin into 5, when by rights he should be walking away with nothing. Shiny, Pook said. Some good luck for the rabbits. Let's hope that we continue to have some good luck for them. Anyway, it's another interlude next. I'll try and do that over the weekend before we return on Monday. Have a lovely sunny one. See you soon. Bye.